All right, hello class. We are now looking at exercise 1 in class 5. So class 5, exercise 1. And it's important to realize we've already been familiar with log files and logging to a file the warnings, the messages, the errors that we get in our code. And that's an important part of security is having log data and being able to analyze log data so you can discover breaches, so you can discover bugs in code, and all kinds of problems with your system. And so logging is a very important part of security, logging and monitoring. And PHP has its own log files, but today we're going to talk about a centralized logging system called syslog that's been in the Unix world for a long time. In the case of Linux, it's called rsyslog, or the most updated rsyslog, because it now has remote capabilities. It can actually capture logs in a very structured way and send them out in a very structured way to different outputs, either to a file or to a remote server or to somewhere else where they can be monitored. Uh, the logs, every line that gets entered into a log file can have one of several severities. So how severe it is. It's an emergency, probably needs to be treated differently by the systems monitoring the log files to do something if it's an emergency. If it's a debug information, hopefully this is turned off in production and you don't have to see all the debug errors in production, but this is very useful when you're building code and debugging something to see what problems it has, or you might even turn it on in production if it's a bug that you cannot replicate in a lower environment, and all the other levels in between, like there's an error that occurred. And so in your code, you can specify this particular message needs to come out if it's an emergency or if it's a debug level event. And then your logging system can only show or only to take special actions to show certain errors or to hide certain errors or to take further action if it's an emergency, or less action if it's debug, for example. So that's where the severities are very important. In this particular case, we're going to use syslog in PHP, the syslog function in the PHP code itself to call the syslog server frame, basically the syslog daemon that's already running on the Kali Linux, and see if it's going to write out a log entry into that particular log file. There is a bit of a warning. I should tell you that our syslog is not installed by default, so I've actually had to go through and find out if our syslog is running. So I can do ps-ef into grep our syslog, and now you notice that it's running, but before it wasn't running. So if you don't have this line or a line like this that says our syslog d running, then it's not running. At the very least, you'll have to start it. In my case, I actually had to go install it with sudo apt-get install rsyslog, and then it automatically started. You can also do system control status rsyslog.service, and it'll tell you that it's running. I didn't have this. I didn't get this error before because it wasn't running. So let's save that command here as well. Anyways, the other caveat here is that it doesn't use var log messages, but it uses var log syslog by default now. And this, I guess this is a change in the default where it puts the log files. So if I do tail/var log messages, you will get no such file found, but you should be able to um, syslog. If you do this, you should be able to see the errors. Okay, so just FYI. The exercise asks us to create this very basic PHP file, which I created here. It's called syslog.php. And It does nothing very much. It essentially always skips the authorized portion of the if statement and always does the else, because authorized equals false. So it's never true. So it never prints this line out. And so it always does the bottom part, which basically says, here's a date and time, and please save it as a log warning to the syslog daemon, the syslog server, the syslog service that's running on this box. So let's run it and see what happens. So we're going to go to, we are here. So we're going to do PHP syslog.php, and notice that nothing happened. Nothing came to the screen because there's no print out at all. However, if we go here to var log and we do tail, like we can do cat, like it says, so you can do cat of the file, but it's more useful in my mind to use tail -f sys log, like I said. And let's leave a few spaces here and run it again. PHP, and now notice, ta-da, an error or a warning was put out by the PHP system, and it says unauthorized client with the date. This one, the Kali PHP, it figured that out all by itself and put its own timestamp in place. The only thing that we gave it was the actual log message itself. And so that is centralized logging, very basics, exercise 1, stopping there.